In our headlines on this Tuesday, August 12th, here in South Korea, President Kim Keon Hee and his US counterpart Donald Trump will sit down for their first summit on August 25th at the White House. Meanwhile, a business forum took place here in Seoul earlier on this Tuesday to bolster economic ventures between South Korea and Vietnam. And the song Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters tops the Billboard Hot 100 this week after debuting at 81st place at the start of July. The presidential office here has confirmed that President Kim Keon Hee will meet with his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump at the White House on August 25th. Arirang's Yoon Jung-min files this report from the top office.
The date has been made official for the first E-Trump Summit, August 25th. President Lee Jae-myung will be in Washington from August 24th to 26th upon invitation from U.S. President Donald Trump. According to the top office in Seoul, it'll be a working visit involving a luncheon. During the first summit in more than 2 months since Lee took office, the agenda will include key issues.
The two leaders will discuss ways to develop the South Korea-U.S. alliance into a future-oriented, comprehensive strategic alliance in response to the changing international security and economic environment.
An economic partnership on chips, batteries, and shipbuilding will top the agenda, as well as high technology and critical minerals, as part of the Allies Framework Trade Deal that was reached late last month, before the Trump administration's August 1st deadline. Security issues that were not addressed at that time could be on the table. Eyes are also on whether the two leaders will discuss resuming dialogue with North Korea, reflecting peace efforts by the new government in Seoul.
The leaders will discuss measures to coordinate peace on the Korean peninsula and denuclearization, while further strengthening the robust South Korea-U.S. combined defense posture.
First Lady Kim Keon will be accompanying the president. Business leaders could also join the trip, though the presidential office says it has yet to be decided. With much speculation that President Lee's trip to neighboring Japan will precede his U.S. trip, his office remains tight-lipped, adding it's sounding out various possibilities. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
And President Kim Keon Hee has called yet again for tangible efforts to ensure workplace safety in response to a number of tragic industrial accidents this year. Remarks to this end were shared at a cabinet meeting on this Tuesday, during which he stressed the need to move away from what he described as a regressive republic of industrial accidents. To take a listen.
피할 수 있는데 피하지 않았다든지, 특히 돈을 벌기 위해서, 비용을 줄이기 위해서, 지출해야 될 비용을 아끼기 위해서 누군가의 목숨을 빼앗는다고 하는 것은, 그건 저는 전에도 말씀드렸습니다만 이게 일종의 미필적 고의의 살인 또는 사회적 타살이다.
Earlier on Saturday, the President had ordered the Labour Ministry to share potential strategies against such accidents at today's meeting. Also, on the local front, a forum to boost economic ventures between South Korea and Vietnam took place here in Seoul earlier on this Tuesday. Our correspondent Moon Ji-young has details.
To mark the first visit in 11 years by Vietnam's top party leader, the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry hosted a business forum on Tuesday, aiming to bolster economic cooperation between the two nations. The forum was attended by Vietnam's Party General Secretary Do Lam, 500 officials from both governments and the business community, and South Korean Prime Minister Kim Min-seok.
Since establishing diplomatic ties in 1992, Korea and Vietnam have mutually become among each other's top 3 trading partners. Korea is also Vietnam's largest investor, with nearly 10,000 companies operating there, making them essential economic partners across diverse sectors like textiles, electronics, chemicals, and shipbuilding.
Prime Minister Kim further emphasized expanding cooperation beyond manufacturing into new industrial sectors such as high-tech, culture, and digital, and also underscored comprehensive supply chain collaboration, particularly in energy. Vietnam's finance minister highlighted mutually beneficial cooperation.
The Vietnamese government welcomes Korean businesses to jointly enter Vietnam and third markets, and we are prepared for mutually beneficial cooperation. We will particularly work closely with Korea in new energy, semiconductors, AI, and the e-digital economy, and we will spare no support for large-scale cooperation projects.
The forum notably spurred significant collaboration, culminating in the signing of 52 memoranda of understanding across diverse sectors, such as industrial cooperation, energy, and food and tourism. Specifically, 47 Korean companies and organizations, along with 37 Vietnamese counterparts, committed to strengthening cooperation in a wide array of fields, from energy, shipbuilding, and aviation to cutting-edge areas like AI, advanced materials, and drones. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
And President Lee Jae-myung and First Lady Kim Hae-kyung invited Vietnamese Party General Secretary To Lom and his spouse Nguyen Phuong Lee to the Sangchun-jae reception hall at Cheong Wa Dae on this Tuesday. According to the top office, they were treated to music performances featuring traditional instruments of their two countries. Also, over tea and a stroll in Nok Chiwon Garden, the two leaders reportedly reaffirmed their commitment to advancing bilateral cooperation. The presidential office also made note of the fact that this reception was the first formal event at Sangchun-jae under the Lee Jae-myung administration in honor of a state guest. Meanwhile, cooperation between South Korea and Vietnam also includes that in the field of filmmaking and broader entertainment. Our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo files this report.
I'm abandoning my mom. This recent popular movie in Vietnam surpassed the break-even point in the country just 3 days after its release. What's notable is that it's a Korea-Vietnam co-production, starring popular actors from both countries. More such collaborations are expected as the culture ministers of Korea and Vietnam met in Seoul to explore ways for sustainable growth in the culture industry.
Since establishing a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2023, we've strengthened cooperation in various sectors. With our ties closer than ever, it's time to take cultural exchange and cooperation to the next level. We see the culture industry's potential and ripple effects as a key driver of future economic growth.
Vietnam has also signaled its commitment to cultural cooperation, following its recently unveiled national strategy to build a culture industry centered on digital transformation.
Korea is a culturally advanced country whose new technologies add significant value to its cultural industries. We hope to learn from Korea's expertise to further develop our industries as we share cultural common ground.
Positive messages from both sides led to MOUs being signed between companies from both countries on Monday, covering joint film and game projects.
Korean content are very popular in Vietnam, from music to drama series to movie. And I'm very happy that this year the collaboration extends into another level. Co-produce a Vietnam-Korean movie with the original story. We will be filming in March and releasing end of 2026.
And more Korean companies are diversifying their content creation with their Vietnamese counterparts.
We're exploring collaborations such as remaking films with our IP and co-producing Vietnamese dramas or casting Vietnamese actors in our dramas. While there may be cultural sensitivities or differing social norms, these can be addressed from the early planning stages.
Korea's Culture Ministry also announced plans including financing and tax incentives in the cultural field on Monday, with the aim for the industry to generate 300 trillion won in revenue by 2030. With more of these efforts paving the way for broader collaboration between the two countries, more cultural content is expected down the road. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
In our interview segment today, we share with you the second part of our online exchange with the Korea chair of the U.S. think tank CSIS, during which he weighed in on prospects of a summit between the U.S. and North Korea on the margins of the APEC meeting here in South Korea later this year. Kim Jung-sil reports.
Victor Cha, Korea chair at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, says Washington's official stance remains unchanged. The end goal is still the denuclearization of North Korea. But he warns that's no short-term prospect.
Stated U.S. policy is the end game is denuclearization, right? That's our stated U.S. policy. But that's really a long-term goal. I mean, given how much North Korea's nuclear program has developed. So the question then becomes, in the interim, what would the United States be seeking?
In that interim, Dr. Cha says Washington could pursue other priorities and perhaps a diplomatic opening. He suggested that if the U.S. president attends October's APEC meeting in Gyeongju, the trip might also take him to Panmunjom and possibly to talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
If that happened, I just want to ask you the real end game for both sides this time?
Certainly, I think some form of freeze on the program, some of the initial steps towards denuclearization would be important. But at the same time, there are other things that I think the United States is concerned about when it comes to North Korea. And one of them, of course, is their deep military relationship with Russia.
He says that relationship now factors directly into Trump's top foreign policy priority.
This is clearly a priority of the Trump administration to end the war in Europe. And North Korea now plays a role in that. So one wonders whether that will become a high priority issue if President Trump meets the leader of North Korea.
But Pyongyang has set its own terms for any meeting. In a recent statement, Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korea's leader, rejected any challenge to the regime's nuclear weapons status.
She made very clear that any meeting between the two leaders will be as de facto recognized nuclear weapon state. So that is a condition that they've laid out for meeting, and I think it's one that the Trump administration has to determine whether they're willing to meet that condition or not.
Dr. Cha says a Trump-Kim meeting could sideline denuclearization issues for others, such as Pyongyang's military ties with Moscow or stopping North Korea from helping rebuild Iran's nuclear program.
But as we've seen with this president, in the end, he makes the decision. And as far as we know, he won't make that decision until he walks into the room with Kim.
For now, all eyes are on what Trump decides when and if he meets Kim. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
On the local front, also on this Tuesday, the ruling Democratic Party has launched a special committee on judiciary reform. The committee will review the proposals the party has presented thus far and seek to chart a clear path for the changes ahead. Among the key proposals is a bill to expand the number of Supreme Court justices. And to this end, DP leader Cheong Wa Dae urged members to work with the mission of completing this reform before the Chuseok holiday in early October. A Seoul court held a hearing today on the arrest request against former First Lady Kim Keon Hee. Kim faces charges of stock manipulation, interference in party nominations, and influence peddling. Prosecutors say there is a high risk of evidence tampering if she is not arrested. After the 4-hour hearing at the Seoul Central District Court, Kim was moved to Seoul's Sudden Detention Center to await the court's decision. A decision could come as early as tonight, and if granted, it would be the first time in the country's history that a former president, that is Yoon Suk-yeol, and First Lady are detained simultaneously. A recent poll shows over 50% of small business owners have noted increased sales following the launch of the so-called consumption coupons. The survey involved over 2,000 merchants and was conducted over a 3-day period late last week by Korea Federation of Micro Enterprise and Korea Merchant Association. Findings reveal that about 56% of the respondents posted sales growth, with 51% saying their sales rose between 10 to 30%. More than 70% supported similar consumption initiatives, suggesting that the coupons be limited for use in traditional markets and that their value be raised. The tariff truce between the US and China will stay in place until early November, amid speculation that the two leaders may hold talks on the sidelines of the APEC meeting here in South Korea this coming autumn. Our Lee Soo-jin has the latest.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Monday extending the U.S.-China tariff truce by 90 days. The move finalizes the outcome of last month's high-level trade talks in Sweden. As a result, U.S. tariffs on China cut to 30% in May, and China's tariffs on the U.S. lowered to 10% will remain in place until early November.
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
Analysts say any breakthrough is likely to come only after a face-to-face meeting between President Trump and China's President Xi Jinping, possibly on the sidelines of the APEC meeting in Gyeongju, South Korea this October. Trump said in an August 5th phone interview with CNBC that Xi had asked for a meeting and that they would most likely meet before the end of the year if a deal is reached. In a separate announcement, Trump said gold imports will be tariff-free. On Truth Social, the president wrote gold will not be tariffed. The post came after reports that U.S. Customs plan to apply tariffs to 1 kilogram gold bars, news that sent prices to record highs last week. Following Trump's statement, gold futures fell more than 2%, calming earlier market jitters. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
And staying with remarks by Mr. Trump, but this time regarding Russian aggression against Ukraine, he has reaffirmed efforts to ensure a trilateral summit, including his Ukrainian and Russian counterparts. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed on Monday that he would be holding a face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday in Alaska. Trump also raised the possibility of a trilateral summit involving Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky after his one-on-one talks with Putin. However, he said while he would be available if needed, he'd prefer a bilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky. While leaving open the possibility of a trilateral summit, President Trump stated that he would first hear Putin's thoughts and potentially share the details of the meeting with President Zelensky, the EU, and NATO leaders.
I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after.
Meanwhile, during a press conference at the White House on Monday, Trump said he'll try to get some territory back for Ukraine during his meeting with Putin on Friday. Trump stressed that Russia has occupied a big portion of Ukraine. The U.S. leader raised the possibility that both Russia and Ukraine would need to make some territorial concessions in order to work out a peace deal, saying that there could be some swapping changes in land. However, Zelensky on Saturday shot down any chance of Ukraine giving up territory captured by Russia in the ongoing war. In a video posted on X, Zelensky said that Ukrainians will not give their land to the occupier, adding that his country will not reward Russia for what it has perpetrated. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On the entertainment front, K-pop Demon Hunters continues to make Billboard headlines, and this week its song Golden topped the publication's Hot 100. Our Pyongyang covers this feat and its broader implications.
The K-pop Demon Hunter sensation shows no signs of slowing down, this time topping the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Praised for its high-quality animation, visually striking characters, and clever use of Korean traditional folklore, the Netflix original animation soundtrack Golden climbed up a spot to reach #1 for the first time. Billboard announced the feat on Monday local time, noting that Golden is the 9th song linked to Korean pop to top the Hot 100, and the first to do so with female lead vocalists.
This is the first time a girl group has topped the Billboard Hot 100 since Destiny's Child. And in K-pop history, it's also the first time virtual idols, or an animated act based on K-pop, have reached #1 on the chart.
Sung by the virtual girl group HUNTR in the movie, the vocalists behind the song are Korean-American artists EJ, Ray Ami, and Audrey Nuna. Of all the tracks in K-pop Demon Hunters, Golden has stood out for its soaring high notes in the latter part of the song, a section that has even become a benchmark for proving one's vocal skills and sparked the Golden Challenge among K-pop stars. Big K-pop names like Solar of Mamamoo, Lily of Mix, and Ailee have all joined in.
K-pop is not just about listening to and enjoying the music, it's about enjoying it together. That's one of K-pop's charms. Participating, singing along, even creating content, all of that has helped bring the songs from K-pop Demon Hunters closer to the public.
Earlier this month, Golden also topped the UK's official singles Top 100 chart, one of the two biggest music charts in the world, alongside Billboard Top 100, making it a rare track to conquer both the UK and US pop markets. Hyun-yeong, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. In the United States, President Donald Trump has declared a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C., placing the city's police under direct federal control. At a White House press conference on Monday, President Trump also announced the deployment of 800 National Guard troops. Trump stated the move was to reestablish law, order, and public safety in the Capitol. He referenced the emergency powers granted by the D.C. Home Rule Act, which allow him to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department, bypassing elected city leaders. Attorney General Pam Bondi was appointed to oversee the federalized police force. National Guard troops are expected to arrive by the end of the week, with between 100 and 200 deployed at any given time to assist the police. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser described the president's actions as unsettling and unprecedented, asserting that the city is not experiencing a crime surge and that violent crime is at a 30-year low. The United Nations has strongly condemned a targeted Israeli airstrike that killed 5 Al Jazeera journalists in Gaza on Sunday, calling it a serious breach of international law. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned the killing and demanded an independent and impartial investigation into the incident, according to his spokesperson on Monday. Al Jazeera labeled the attack a blatant and premeditated assault on press freedom, asserting that it aimed to silence those documenting the impending occupation of Gaza. The U.S.-based Committee to Protect Journalists urged accountability and denounced Israel's repeated claims of Hamas affiliation as justification for targeting journalists. According to reports, at least 242 journalists have been killed in Gaza since the war began. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Monday that Australia will formally recognize a Palestinian state at the upcoming UN General Assembly in September, aligning with similar commitments from France, the UK, and Canada. The decision is conditional on key assurances from the Palestinian Authority, including excluding Hamas from any governing role, demilitarizing Gaza, and holding democratic elections. Meanwhile, New Zealand's foreign minister said his country was also considering recognizing Palestinian statehood and would make a formal decision in September. Finally, in China, a robot band comprised of 5 autonomous humanoid robot musicians will debut at the opening ceremony of the World Humanoid Robot Games in Beijing on Thursday. The ensemble, engineered by Hefei Panxi Technology, will include a keyboardist, lead guitarist, drummer, bassist, and rhythm guitarist, and will use a shared computing system that processes musical scores in real time to coordinate movements. Engineers have upgraded pneumatic joints with faster motor-driven ones to handle quicker rhythms during their performance, which will feature traditional folk songs. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
It has rained in the southern parts of the country today due to a slow-moving front located in the southern sea. In Yeosu, there was more than 45 millimeters of heavy rain per hour. Heavy rain warnings have been issued in the mountainous areas of Jeju Island, and heavy rain advisors are also in place for some parts of the south coast. Tomorrow, this rain will spread across the country. In particular, it is expected to rain as much as 150 millimeters in northern Gyeonggi-do province and Incheon, and up to 120 millimeters in Seoul. Please be prepared to avoid damage from rain. The morning will start warm at 25 degrees Celsius in Seoul and Gwangju, Jeju at 27 degrees. Highs will move up to 27 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, Gwangju and Daegu 32 degrees. It will get hotter in the second half of the week when the rain stops. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.